Welcome to the channel. My name is Matthias. Today we're going to talk about some pretty bad tie-ins into the X of Swords crossover. So we're going to cover X-Men 13, Excalibur 13, New Mutants 13, and Cable 5. That's 4 tie-ins where the respective writers of those stories does something that maybe left me scratching my head, or made a pretty major mistake, or completely forgot about something that was already established in continuity. Another problem that I see is that we have inconsistencies amongst writers all working on the same crossover. So first, let's start with Ed Brisson's New Mutants, where we focus on the character of Cypher. He has been chosen to participate in Saturnine's competition. Now, he's really worried that he's not much of a fighter, so he starts training with Magik. And she's pretty hardcore with her training. She's giving him way too much tough love, where we have Cypher really questioning himself and if he's going to get out alive during this competition. And as the story progresses, Cypher realizes that fighting is a type of language, and that's his whole thing, to understand languages. So what happens is he gets better with his fighting capabilities, and he's able to hold up his own against Magik, and it's like a big revelation for him. The thing is that it was already established a long time ago in the X-Necrosha crossover that he viewed fighting and fighting styles as different types of languages, and he had become a crazy good fighter. So I'm not sure if the writer knew this or ignored this fact just to lean in on the fact that Cypher just doesn't want to die in Otherworld, where we even have the island of Krakoa not wanting Cypher to participate in the competition. Because not only Cypher communicates Krakoa's intentions to the Quiet Council, it seems that they have become friends. Then we jump to Cable issue 5, written by Gerry Duggan, where we have Cable, Jean, and Cyclops going to Swords Space Station. And here we have 2 situations, one that doesn't make any sense, and another that I consider to be a lost opportunity. So the story starts off, we don't know what happened on Swords Base. There's no power. Cable and company find this interface that they can reestablish power, and it seems the key to restart this power is the sword that Cable has, the Sword of Galador. He sticks it in, everything goes back online. It would have been super cool after all this time to discover that Sword's base functioned off the power of this sword. But it was established earlier in the series that this sword was found stuck in the foot of a monster that was living on Arakko, who had killed the owner of this sword. So why would they have this interface in the first place? It makes zero sense. Is there an overabundance of power swords in Sword's possession? Then we discover that Sword's base was overrun by these weird aliens called the Veskara. Now, these characters are very similar to the map makers, the cartographers, which were hyper-evolved super adaptoids, part of Hickman's run on the Avengers. And it would have been interesting to bring those characters into this story too, since the X of Swords crossover is pretty much a Hickman story. They seem to be totally different characters, but they do the same thing. And I have to say that the map makers were the ones responsible for the destruction of the Captain Britain Corps. So it would have been a no-brainer to bring these characters back. Then we get Tini Howard's Excalibur, which is just insufferable. During the previous 12 issues of this run, Brian Braddock did not want to be Captain Britain anymore. Betsy takes up the mantle. She's doing a pretty good job at it. Then all of a sudden in this issue, Brian wants to be Captain Britain again. Half the issue, brother and sister are squabbling over this. It makes zero sense. And then by accident, because Brian had the Sword of Might in his hand, and we had this explosion, and he just turns into Captain Avalon, which I must say, he has a really awesome design. But there's no reference in the story or in the rest of this crossover that the Sword of Might makes you super aggressive. At least that was established with Albillion, who was the main villain to the Excalibur series in the early 2000s. And then we get this really cringy situation where Brian Braddock makes Saturnine think that they're going to get it on. Because for those who don't know, Saturnine is obsessed with Brian Braddock. And in the last issue, issue 13, written by Jonathan Hickman, we have Apocalypse, who's healed from his wounds when he came back from Otherworld. He was infected by plague, but the thing is that earlier in this crossover, it was established that he had died. And not only that, Xavier and Magneto decided to stop the Resurrection Protocol, so there was no way for him to come back. And in this issue, we have the whole same scenario that we had in the beginning, but here he survives. He's cured, he's back on his feet. I have never seen such a brazen inconsistency in a crossover before. And we have Insabanor sitting out to find his swords for this competition. He's accompanied by Gorgon. But the thing is that I'm just astounded with this gigantic mistake that they made in this story. I feel like there was a lack of communication maybe amongst the writers. Maybe they did things really too quickly. The thing is that all these issues, I find something that really just takes me out of the story. So I'm going to leave this video here. I hope you guys liked it. See you guys next time. Bye.